One thing that we didn't have on Monday's review was going over the teachings of Ptah. So I do want to kind of spend some time going over that. I have that on another study guide, so I'm going to engage that. So we can just kind of review that teaching. And then we can still think about how the teachings of Ptah fit within a specified theoretical framework. Once we've done that, it's really about how you all want to continue. I think we have a few more, maybe two at most readings that we didn't cover, so we'll go through that and then spend the time addressing whatever questions you all have. How does that sound? Cool. Before we jump into that, does anyone have any general questions, comments, or concerns? All right, bet. Give me a second. Let me get the study guide pulled up, and then we'll jump into that. So we've already went over, how old African people are. So let's just kind of think about the second bullet point here. Uh, and we'll kind of go through, address those questions, and then we'll think about which theoretical framework would best fit this particular reading. So the questions posed, what is significant about the teachings of Ptah, the oldest book in the world, as it pertains to understanding who African people are? How does the text speak to the values and principles that shape African society? So what does the book, what does the reading say about who African people are, right? And then what does the book, what does the reading say about the values and the principles that shape African society? All right, so let's think about it this way. Um, if you can, you can pull out your journals to help you think about this. And I know that this is very early on in the semester, but what were the overall thesis of the teachings of Ptah? What was his main desire with producing that text? Why did he want to write the 37 wisdom teachings? Go ahead, Kevin.
It was kind of like, don't be an awful person. Like, be good instead of spreading hate, spread love.
Okay. So to be a good person, right? To kind of move through society in a way that is productive of love, right? As Kevin situates it. To kind of bring us back to the language of the text, right? What Ptah sought to do was to eliminate strife, right? And he says, let me use the wisdom of my old age, my 110 years, so that I could teach the hearers how to hear or how to listen to the words of the gods and listen to the words of those who follow their ancestors, right? So we could eliminate strife and so that the two shores can serve you. So we know, and I asked you all when we had this lecture, right? And just to kind of get you to think about it as it pertains to the values and who these people are. What is strife? Someone provide me with a definition of strife.
Conflict.
Conflict. Perfect. Thank you, Amanda. Right. So if the object of the text is to produce a society that has no strife, right? What does it say about that particular type of people, those particular type of people, if they want to remove conflict, bickering, wars from their society?
Being able
Pacifist.
to. Oh, I'm sorry, Kevin. Go ahead.
No, sorry. I was saying pacifists because
Okay.
pacifists are more like friendly rather than like fighting.
Perfect. So they're peaceful people. What were you going to say, Ernesto?
I was just gonna say, due to taking away conflicts or wars, it would just bring non-chaos.
Right. Pacifist, non-chaotic, or in other words, peace. Right. So we could glean from this that African people, by and large, are peaceful people. If the first piece of literature that they produce is to eliminate strife from the world, and one of their supreme desires, right, is to create a society that is peaceful, right? So now this kind of also speaks to the second portion of the question. Um, how does the text speak to the values and principles that shape the society, right? So if we know that these people are peaceful, then what type of values, what type of principles are they going to instill into the society that's going to make sure that that society is peaceful? So what are the values? What are the principles? And think about the wisdom teachings, right? How do they instruct people on how to deal with conflicts? If you're in a dispute with someone who is your superior, what do you do? If you're in dispute with someone who is your equal, what do you do? If you're in dispute with someone who is below you, what do you do? Right. So within their offering of how to handle a dispute speaks to what their values and what their principles are. So what are some of those values and what are some of those principles?
I think one of them was like, oh, sorry, you can go ahead, Ernesto.
Go ahead, Eric, and then we'll jump to Ernesto. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I think it was like when you're disputing or having an argument with someone, it would be to like have self-control and mostly like stay quiet rather than speak before you think, or just listen to what the other person is saying, and instead of just speaking without thought.
And I think Eric is spot on in the sense of listening, right? That term listen is used over 27 times, sorry, over 57 times within the text. So one of the supreme values of the ancient Kemetic society is to listen, right? Great emphasis is placed on listening. Ernesto?
That's actually exactly what I was gonna go for. That's what.
My bad, man. But no, I think if go ahead, if you want to chime in more, are you good? But no, if you're attentive to being a listener, if that's what you're thinking, then you're in the right location. Perfect. Um, so what theoretical framework will we place the teachers of Ptahhotep in? African American male theory, or what we'll call African theory, counter storytelling from critical race theory, funds of knowledge, or fugitivity? What critical framework would best serve this particular reading, or theoretical framework, excuse me. Kevin, go ahead.
I think African theory, for the
Okay.
main reason that like it's talking about like the culture and like the purpose of like this of like I don't know like how to describe it well, but it's kind of like the purpose of being a human. Like don't be rude, don't be discriminatory, be a good person.
Yeah. And I think also to use it to work through it in the language of the framework, right? This idea of being moral, right? A lot of what is going on within the teachings of Ptahhotep is about establishing a moral and ethical society. And the teachings of Ptahhotep, I'm sorry, and the framework states that African people are born with this innate capacity to be moral, right? So I think that's a really good one. What other theoretical frameworks could fit for the teachings of Ptahhotep? And I'm thinking about when he says, I'm sorry, go ahead, Kyle.
Another framework I believe is counter storytelling.
Okay, why
And
counter?
this is because it emphasizes community rather than the individual, which is often what is the center of attention in like westernized cultures, like always care about yourself, do the best for yourself, be self-providing, versus this idea, which is like focus on your community, give and take back, and like you'll be rewarded for it.
You know, I mean, honestly, Kyle, I didn't think about it in those terms, but based off of your description as to why you chose that, that works for me, right? Because you're right. To be communally oriented in our society, that's not part of the dominant narrative. That's not part of how stories are told in our world, right? The person who is individualistic is typically the hero, right? So I would agree with that. Is there another theoretical framework that deals with community that would fit for the teachings of Ptahhotep? Anyone else think of? And actually, hold on, give me 1 second. Let me do this. Bear with me 1 second. So we're thinking about community, right? I'm thinking about funds of knowledge, right? Speaks to the importance of the family unit and community structure, right? Recognizing the power in these communities, forms of knowledge, engaging in thinking that moves funds of knowledge into more historical forms of social capital. So for me, Ptahhotep's desire to teach the son of the visor, to teach those who are willing to listen to the words of the ancestors and the words of the ways of the gods, right? This is speaking to passing down of a communal knowledge, right? Making sure that one generation to the next understands how to engage in what he calls the Midterm infer, right? Good speech, right? So this is something that is a community orientation that causes this knowledge to get passed down from one generation to the next. All right. So how do you all feel about the information as it pertains to the teachings of Ptahhotep and what frameworks can fit within the teachings of Ptahhotep? Y'all good with that? All right. Where do we leave off? Did we get through Glissant on Monday? We did? Okay. So if that's the case, we've gone through the midterm. At this point, I just want to give you all the opportunity to answer any questions that you have. Is there anything else you would like to kind of return to in the midterm that you want to get a better understanding of? We have some time left, so make this what you want it to be as it pertains to getting you prepared for your midterm.
How many questions are going to be on the midterm again? I heard you say 3 last time, but I wasn't completely sure.
So it'll be 5 questions, and you'll just choose 3 of the 5 to answer.
Thank you.
Jay?
I was just wondering how many points is it gonna be?
I believe it's 50 points. But think about it this way, right? Like we haven't turned in anything this semester, right?
Oh, yeah.
This will be the first thing you're turning in. So this is going to be pretty much which will determine your grade, right? If you're concerned about the grade, which I know you all are, this assignment, which is the first assignment, is going to determine what your grade will be in the class. And then also you have the journal that will be due as well as the midterm.
Thank
you. Ernesto?
Is there a time? Is this like a timed type of assignment, or can it just be turned in within the day?
Yeah, so it'll be available to you tomorrow, right? You just have to get it back to me by the end of the day, Monday. So that's the time frame, right? So it's an open take home, midterm. So that's why I suggest if you have 3 questions to answer, take one day and answer one question, take another day, answer your second question, take a third day and answer the third question. That just makes sure that you're not rushed, that makes sure you're not prepared, and that allows you to make sure you're answering the whole question in its entirety. Does that make sense? Cool. Kyle?
So along with like the question about how old African people are and the person previous from European contact, will it be like questions like exactly as we went over in the study guide?
No, they're going to be formulated different.
Practice.
Yeah, they'll be formulated differently. But the idea is if you are comfortable with the questions that are on the study guide, then you'll be able to take that information and apply it to the questions on the midterm. So what the difference will be, Kyle, is just how the question's framed or worded, but it's dealing with the same type of subject matter. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but it's like not going to be like exactly like from the book, like I need to cite evidence from the text and then use that to answer the question, or like it's just like an option to do that.
It's an option. I would say it's a strong option, right? Because if you think about it, they're essay responses, right? And how many essays have you wrote where you don't have any source material to help support your argument, right?
Never.
So you want to be able to use the material that we're engaging to kind of support your arguments. So, Glissant dictates that the open boat is XYZ, right? And then that way you're using Glissant to support your answer, and then you can start to elaborate on what your thoughts are as it pertains to the answer. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Anyone else? Questions, comments, concerns,
So,
thoughts? Go ahead, Lena.
my understanding is like as we went over, the study guide is posted, but like the actual midterm is not posted yet.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. Got
Yep. Yep. So tomorrow you'll be able to view the midterm, and then you have from it tomorrow until Monday to submit it. Kevin.
So if like we feel like the three questions that we answered isn't enough, could we answer the other questions for like extra points or like as like a safety cushion?
I think there's a bonus question already embedded into the midterm. So you would just use that bonus question to give you that extra cushion if you feel that you need that. But I would just say this to you, Kevin, and really to everyone. If you answer the question completely, right? Like, even if you go through and like just for your own brainstorming process, right? Put a bullet point to answer each component of the question. So, how old are African people? Put a bullet point, you answered that, right? Name an African individual prior to European contact and their contribution. Bullet point, answered that, right? Why is this information important in the realm of academia? Bullet point, answer that. So now you know with the bullet points, I've addressed each part of the question, and then now I'm going to put it into an overall essay, right? Even if you do that to ensure that you make sure you answer the question completely, that's cool. From that point, just make sure that you're using a theoretical framework and you'll do fine on the test. The only reason people don't do well, they don't answer the questions completely, they forget to use a theoretical framework. And I assume the reason they do that is because they're waiting to the last minute to take the test. But by all means, use the bonus question for your cushion. But I don't believe you'll need it, especially if you're answering the question completely and you're using a theoretical framework, you'll get 100%. Yeah.
We can use more than one framework, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And you can even use the same framework over and over if it fits for you. I don't mind that. But you just make sure that you explain your answer and the why you're using this framework. Then you'll get the full points. Anyone else? So if y'all good, I'm good. I don't have anything else for you. What we'll do, yeah, we'll pick back up on Monday with the reading material. Actually, no, fuck that. Don't trip. No class on Monday. Take the time, go through your midterm, make sure you get that submitted by the end of the day, right? We'll pick up on Wednesday. But for Wednesday, shit. I get really bad service here. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can pull up where we are at with the reading. Yeah. Anyway, I'll post on Canvas Monday what to have read for Wednesday's class. All right, so just kind of keep an eye out on Canvas. Know by the end of day Monday, I'll point to you what reading we're having to discuss for Wednesday's class. Again, no class Monday, excuse me, no class Monday. Take the time to do your midterm. Don't stress off of this. Don't stress off of this. Don't make this harder than it has to be, right? If you get stressed out, take a deep breath. Know that you're prepared. Know that you have resources, right? You have a journal. You have the PDFs themselves, right? I will get those lectures up by the end of the day tomorrow. Those are another form of resources that you have to get yourself situated within the material. As long as you give yourself ample time, you'll all be fine. You will have until really the end of day today, right, to contact me for any questions about the midterm. Once the midterm is up on Thursday, I am not a resource. You have to kind of lean on your own devices at this point. So with that being said, any other last minute questions, comments, concerns? All right. Make sure that you also submit your journals with your midterm. Your journal should be typed out. It should be submitted as one PDF with all the journal entries attached. So that way I'm not having to open up various different PDFs. So just get that in together with the midterm, and then we'll collect the remainder of the journal again at the end of the semester. So Just make sure you do that, and then know, as I mentioned, especially for those who are athletes, right? You have to get like your report back. How you do on this is going to determine how your grade is in the class. We haven't turned anything in up until now. So you do well on this, you have an A on the midterm, you have an A in the class, right? Et cetera, et cetera. All right. Any other questions? All right, y'all. Have a good weekend. Again, don't stress. Don't wait till the last minute. You are prepared. You will all do well. Peace.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good going, Professor.
You as well.
Thank you.
All right, Kevin. Have a good one.